Great job to take third position in the session. Was that everything that the car had today?
I guess so. I mean, I think we were lacking all weekend, of course, compared to them, but I think we executed well. And I think, yeah, that third position is, I think, where we more or less should be, even though I think it's quite close behind as well. So, yeah, it's fun. I mean, around here, squeezing everything out of the car. The grip is always quite good, even with the hot temperatures, but yeah, let's see tomorrow what we can do from there.
Exactly the same lap time on our timing screens as George Russell. You, of course, setting the lap time first. You've been talking a little bit about the balance of that Red Bull through the weekend so far. How much work did you have to do overnight to make that car, to put yourself in the position to be third today?
Not too much. I mean, I think we had quite a decent Friday, actually, and we just made some final changes to the car. But yeah, of course, unfortunately, it wasn't enough to really challenge for the pole. But yeah, it's okay.
Do you have a good race car underneath you for tomorrow, starting from the second row on the grid?
Yeah, I'll try my best, but they will be tough to beat. But we'll see what we can do tomorrow.
Have a great one, Max.
Right.
Max, so much talk coming into this weekend about the new directive and whether or not that would shake things up. As it stands, 3/10 off McLaren in qualifying today. Did you think that was where you were going to be, or did you think you'd maybe get a bit closer?
It's always difficult to predict anything. That's why I never really do that. I don't think about it. I just go into the weekend and try to extract the most out of our car, and honestly, I think we did. The car didn't really feel too bad in qualifying, just not fast enough, and then that's it.
What about the race tomorrow? I mean, we think back to Imola and the sensational move you made there. Do you see tomorrow still as an opportunity to win for you?
I think it will be tough. Unfortunately, I don't think it feels like Imola in terms of how competitive we are. But we'll see. I mean, we have to maximize the points that we can get. Try to at least put the pressure on, but I'm not sure how much we can do that.
I mean, teammates on the front row ahead of you, do you watch what happens there, or do you try and get involved?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I just focus on having a good start myself. I know it's a long run to turn one, but the race is not won or lost for me personally in turn one around here.
Did you know that Max Verstappen no longer trusts Red Bull to give him a championship car? Although it may seem incredible, his latest statement in Barcelona made it clear that something has changed. I guess third is where we should be, Max said with a coldness that set off all the alarm bells. Before continuing, let me know your opinion in the comments. Do you think Verstappen is preparing to leave Red Bull? What's happening inside Red Bull that's pushing Max to the limit? In this video, we'll break down Verstappen's statements after qualifying for the 2025 Spanish Grand Prix, analyze his car, the team's strategies, and what this could mean for his future in F1. Qualifying for the 2025 Spanish Grand Prix not only produced an unexpected grid, but also marked a turning point in the season's narrative. McLaren achieved a resounding 1-2 finish, with Oscar Piastri on pole and Lando Norris in second. But the truly striking aspect wasn't who led, but who didn't. Max Verstappen, the reigning champion, barely managed third place, almost half a second behind Piastri's time. And while being on the second row might seem acceptable, his post-session statements revealed a much deeper meaning. For the first time in years, the Dutchman seems to have accepted that Red Bull is no longer at the forefront of Formula One. This result is not an isolated incident, but part of a trend that has been consolidating since the start of the season. Red Bull's absolute dominance in previous years has been consistently challenged by an emerging McLaren, a team that has not only improved its car but also achieved near-perfect performance on the track. In contrast, Red Bull seems to be in a constant process of adaptation, trying to correct technical shortcomings that weren't usually part of its recent reality. Verstappen summed it up with a phrase that, for many, sounded like a tactical surrender. I guess third is where we should be. These words, if read carefully, speak not only to the result itself, but to a broader resignation about the RB21's overall performance. The Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, with its combination of high dash, medium dash, and low-speed corners, is often considered a comprehensive test for any car. There are no hiding places here. If your car has a weakness, the layout will expose it. And that was precisely what happened with the RB21. While McLaren managed to adapt its setup to maximize efficiency in all sections of the circuit, Red Bull once again ran into a problem that had been evident in previous races, such as Monaco, its difficulty generating stable downforce in medium-speed corners. In sections like Turn 5 or the entry to the chicane, Verstappen lost valuable time that, at this level of competition, is impossible to recover. The most alarming thing for Red Bull is that the conditions were ideal for its car to perform better. Unlike street circuits, where walls punish any mistake and traction in slow corners is critical, Barcelona offered more favorable terrain, especially in high-speed sections like Turn 3 or Campsa. There, the RB21 showed some solidity, but not enough to offset the structural deficiencies in other parts of the track. The gap to McLaren was not the result of a single failure, but the sum of multiple technical details that, so far, Red Bull has failed to resolve. And that is precisely what makes this situation so worrying for the team and for Verstappen. From the time of the wall, Red Bull's strategy was clear: minimize damage and conserve what they could. But in such a tightly contested championship, and with just 12 races remaining, that stance is starting to sound more like containment than attack. Verstappen knows this, and his body language in the post-race press conference was more revealing than his words. The driver who used to talk about dominating now talks about resisting. The one who used to lead with confidence now speaks with skepticism. And that change in attitude, however subtle it may seem, could be the first indication of a greater erosion in the relationship between the driver and the team that brought him to the top. When a figure like Max Verstappen, accustomed to dominating the premier class of motorsport, begins to show visible signs of frustration and resignation, speculation quickly mounts. In the corridors of the paddock, where words travel faster than cars, the tone of his statements in Spain has set off alarm bells. It's not just a bad run or a poor qualifying. There's a perceived change of mentality, a kind of emotional distancing between the driver and the team that has been his competitive home for years. The phrase, "we're just participating," he uttered in Bahrain, already left a bitter feeling among his closest fans. But now in Barcelona, with a simple, "I guess third is where we should be," many interpret that he's preparing for something bigger, a possible exit from Red Bull. The rumors aren't new, but they're now taking a more serious turn. In recent weeks, specialized media have reported renewed interest from Ferrari in securing the Dutch driver services. According to these sources, the Italian team would be willing to break all the current financial rules of F1 with a multi-million-dollar offer to lure Verstappen to Maranello. It wouldn't be the first time Ferrari has attempted something like this. Throughout its history, the Scuderia has consistently sought to secure the best talent available, and at this point, no one disputes that Max is the most complete and dominant driver on the grid. What's interesting is that this time, the possibility doesn't seem so remote or far-fetched. Within Verstappen's own circle, some recent attitudes have also contributed to this narrative. There has been a noticeable change in his nonverbal language during press conferences, a lesser willingness to speak enthusiastically about the future with Red Bull, and a more cautious attitude when referring to the team's technical updates. When a driver of his caliber begins to distance himself emotionally from his current project, rival teams notice. And they take advantage. Ferrari, with an evolving structure and an urgent need to return to its leading role, sees Verstappen as the definitive piece to build a championship project. There has even been speculation that Charles Leclerc could leave the team at the end of the season, opening up a spot in the most coveted seat in the paddock. Mercedes has also been mentioned in some circles, albeit more tentatively. With Lewis Hamilton's departure to Ferrari and a car still in the process of recovery, it wouldn't be illogical for Toto Wolff to be interested in signing a driver capable of leading his next era. However, in this case, the options seem more remote, given that Verstappen has historically maintained a tense relationship with some key members of the Mercedes entourage. Still, Formula One is unpredictable, and when it comes to the driver market, the impossible can become feasible in a matter of weeks. What's most intriguing is that Red Bull hasn't given clear signs of having the situation under control. Although Christian Horner has tried to project calm and confidence in front of the press, there's a clear sense of tension behind closed doors. The team boss's recent statements, in which he claims the technical updates are a step in the right direction, sound more like wishful thinking than reality. And Verstappen knows it. His experience in the sport, his analytical skills, and his family background linked to motorsport make him very aware of the exact moment when a project begins to lose competitive viability. And that, according to many observers, could already be happening. Rumors alone don't guarantee change. But when combined with internal signals, public frustration, and a competitive environment that's evolving faster than your team, they become a symptom of something bigger. Verstappen, who for years was synonymous with Red Bull, could be starting to look elsewhere. And when the most dominant driver of his generation begins to consider new options, the balance of power throughout Formula One risks shifting. Red Bull has reached a critical point. After years of undisputed dominance, the team that used to set the pace in Formula One is forced to play defense. Recent Grands Prix, and especially qualifying in Spain, have made it clear that they are no longer a step ahead of the competition. Instead of imposing conditions, they are now trying to keep up with a McLaren in top form, while teams like Ferrari and Mercedes are emerging with significant improvements. This situation not only affects team morale, it is also beginning to erode the confidence Max Verstappen had in his machine. From the technical direction, Red Bull has responded with a series of updates designed to recover some of the lost performance. For the Spanish Grand Prix, significant changes were introduced to the RB21. These included a new front wing profile, revised rear brake cooling ducts, and optimized floor rails. These modifications, according to Christian Horner, were designed to improve downforce without sacrificing straight-line efficiency, especially on mixed sectors like those found in Barcelona. In theory, it was a promising package, but in practice, the results didn't reflect the expected leap. Verstappen, as always, was clear and direct in his assessment. He admitted that the car felt more predictable, that Friday had been decent, but quickly added that the improvements weren't enough. His comment that "we tried everything that made sense on this circuit, but it wasn't enough" is more than a technical observation. It's a statement of reality. It speaks to a driver who, despite his dedication and commitment, recognizes that the current car's ceiling is lower than that of his rivals. Such statements were never part of Verstappen's usual language. In previous years, even on difficult days, he conveyed a sense of absolute control. Today, his speech sounds more restrained, almost resigned. The FIA's introduction of a TD018 technical directive was seen by many as a potential lifeline for Red Bull. These regulations, which tighten flex controls on the front wings, aim to limit one of McLaren's key advantages. Although some changes were made, particularly to the design of the Papaya car's outboard flaps, the reality was that McLaren's performance remained unchanged. Oscar Piastri took pole without incident, and Verstappen admitted that the TD018 didn't change much for Red Bull. That statement, though brief, holds a profound meaning. Even with regulations designed to level the playing field, his team failed to capitalize on the opportunity. This technical stagnation is beginning to directly impact Verstappen's motivation. His trademark ambition clashes with a car that isn't evolving at the necessary pace. And although he maintains a rhetoric of effort and dedication, he has also raised doubts about his true ability to fight for the championship. When a driver like Max, known for his demanding nature and winning mentality, begins to show signs of unease, the team structure is also affected. The message sent inside the garage is no longer one of unquestionable strength, but rather one of alertness. Red Bull therefore finds itself in an ambivalent situation. On the one hand, it has the most consistent driver on the grid with a proven ability to maximize any available performance. On the other, it faces technical limitations that it hasn't been able to resolve quickly enough under the current circumstances. Christian Horner has insisted that the Silverstone package will bring additional improvements, but the question everyone is asking is whether they will arrive in time and whether they will be enough to close a gap that keeps growing. Meanwhile, Verstappen continues to do his part. He shows up to every session with professionalism, extracts the best from the car, and keeps the pressure on his rivals. But his language, both verbal and body, suggests that he is increasingly aware that this season, the championship doesn't depend solely on his talent. It depends, above all, on Red Bull finding a way to react. And for now, that reaction hasn't arrived. The possibility of Max Verstappen leaving Red Bull isn't simply a move in the driver market. It would be one of the most momentous decisions in the recent history of Formula One. A team change of this magnitude would have direct implications not only on the championship fight, but also on the political, technical, and media makeup of the sport. Verstappen isn't just another driver. He's the face of a generation, the leader of a project that defined Red Bull's modern era. If he decides to leave, he doesn't leave a void, he leaves a competitive crater that's difficult to fill. First and foremost, Red Bull would lose its greatest sporting asset. Beyond the statistics, Max has been the anchor that sustained the team in the most demanding moments, and the figure who turned every small technical advance into consistent victories. Without him, Red Bull doesn't just lose a fast driver, it loses its executor, its benchmark, the man who knows how to win even when the car isn't at 100%. Finding someone who can replicate that combination of speed, aggression, and tactical maturity will be no easy task. And in an increasingly demanding calendar, with rivals evolving at a rapid pace, losing Verstappen would also mean losing time. And in Formula One, time is everything. Furthermore, his departure could trigger a chain reaction within the paddock. Teams like Ferrari, Mercedes, and even Aston Martin would enter a new phase of restructuring to adapt to his arrival. In Ferrari's case, his arrival would require a restructuring of internal hierarchies, with Charles Leclerc forced to share or even cede the leadership role. At Mercedes, Verstappen would immediately bring a natural authority that would set a new course following Hamilton's departure. Even a team like McLaren, which currently outperforms him, would closely monitor the impact of his signing on its rival's overall strategy. Because at this level, when a piece like Max moves, the entire board is reconfigured. From a technical perspective, Verstappen's arrival at a new team would also entail a radical shift in development decisions. His driving style is very specific, and the engineers know this. If Max were to join Ferrari, for example, they would quickly adapt the car's philosophy to his preferences, even if it means sacrificing some of the work already done. This is not unusual. When a driver of his caliber signs for a new team, he does so with the power to transform the entire technical approach. And this can lead to an acceleration in the car's performance, but also to internal conflicts if not managed properly. The commercial impact must not be forgotten. Verstappen generates enormous media and financial appeal. His departure from Red Bull could force certain sponsors to reconsider their alliances. The team's image, for years associated with the Dutchman's aggressiveness, youth, and excellence, would be forced to reinvent itself. On the other hand, the team that welcomes him would gain immediate global visibility, increasing its presence in key markets and attracting a new fan base. In a sport where image matters as much as speed, these moves redefine brands and audiences. But perhaps the most significant consequence would be emotional and symbolic. Verstappen's departure would inevitably represent the end of an era, the closing of a golden cycle for Red Bull. And while major teams rebuild, the process takes time, resources, and a good dose of luck. History has shown time and time again, when a central figure leaves, they are not immediately replaced. A period of transition begins. A period that Red Bull, in the midst of competitive pressure, perhaps cannot afford. The simple fact that this possibility is already being openly discussed in the media, in the paddock, and even veiled in the statements of key players, is in itself a sign. It means that Red Bull's stability, at least regarding its relationship with Verstappen, has begun to falter. And that, in a Formula One where the margins are so small, can tip the balance of an entire season. As the 2025 season approaches its midpoint, the focus shifts sharply to what's next. Every race that passes without a decisive response from Red Bull reinforces the narrative that McLaren has taken the technical lead in the championship. And with just 12 Grands Prix remaining, the margin for reaction shrinks dramatically. The question is no longer whether Red Bull can defend its crown, but whether it has the time and resources to reconfigure its strategy before it's too late. For Verstappen, the future has become uncertain. And for a driver accustomed to having everything under control, this represents a profound alteration in his approach to the championship. The next big event is Silverstone. And for many within the Austrian team, that circuit represents the last great opportunity to show they can still compete for victories under normal conditions. Christian Horner has already announced that Red Bull will arrive at the British Grand Prix with a new aerodynamic package. The improvements, he said, will focus on mid-load efficiency and reducing wear on the soft compounds. If this package delivers as promised, it could close a significant gap on McLaren. But if it fails, it could accelerate more drastic decisions within Verstappen's entourage, consolidating a trend that until recently seemed unthinkable. From a strategic perspective, the team can no longer continue relying solely on small adjustments. It needs to make riskier decisions, both on the track and in development. Tire management, which was one of the historical strengths of the RB19 and RB20, has now become a weakness. In races like Monaco, and now Barcelona, degradation on soft compounds has affected the team's chances of fighting in the final third of the race. Verstappen has said it clearly, "We'll have to take care of the front left tire." That statement, which may seem technical, actually reveals a key vulnerability. If Red Bull fails to resolve this issue, it will continue to lose race pace to McLaren and, increasingly, to Ferrari. And speaking of Ferrari, it's important to understand that the situation is about to get even more complicated. The SF25 has shown solid performance in race configurations, especially on medium-drive circuits like Baku and Imola. Hamilton and Charles Leclerc have already begun to push at the top of the grid, and if they can translate their qualifying speed into consistent results, they could even snatch second place in the Constructors' Championship from Red Bull. The same applies to Mercedes, which, although still far from its best, is beginning to show signs of recovery. George Russell and Kimi Antonelli have been working with a philosophy of progressive evolution, and if they manage to stabilize the W15's performance, they could become a constant threat in the final rounds of the calendar. In this context, Verstappen faces a complex dilemma. On the one hand, he knows he is still capable of extracting the best from the car, even in adverse conditions. On the other hand, he's aware that without a significant technical leap, he has no room to fight for the title. His words after qualifying in Barcelona sum it all up. "I'll do my best, but I don't know if it will be enough for the podium." That doubt, expressed with unusual honesty from a driver accustomed to winning, reveals that his confidence in the project is no longer absolute. If the trend isn't reversed in the next 2 or 3 races, we'll likely start to see clearer signs that his stay at Red Bull is being reconsidered. The next few weeks will be critical, not only for the current championship, but for the future of Verstappen, Red Bull, and the competitive structure of Formula One. The sport is entering a phase of reconfiguration, and the next moves will make the difference between adapting or falling behind.